welcome you guys to Edible Ayurveda.
Be able to see you over there too.
I know, right?
Hello.
Hello. Welcome. And welcome to all of you guys. We're having so much fun cooking together, and we've been doing, DeAnna and I have been doing nutrition classes for the last couple of years together, and they've been super fun, and we're doing another year this year, and we kind of are rebranding it Edible Ayurveda. So we've just said, well, let's get in the kitchen and just start cooking and having a little fun and bringing all that out. So it's kind of perfect what we chose to do today because it's really hot.
And it is a summer hydrating, cooling meal. So
yeah. So one of the things we wanted to let you guys know, if you wanted a cocktail, you can always get one, and they're like $2 off today. But we're gonna kind of talk a little bit about the kumari, the kumari drink, and then we have a like a face mask made out of food. So it's like an edible face mask. If you feel inclined, you could do that. And then we're gonna make some a little slaw and just highlight some specific cooling, hydrating, electrolyte ingredients. Yeah.
okay. So first thing, the kumari was actually one of my creations. I'll be really honest where it got created from. You know, it was created from, you know, having some play out with some friends, and maybe that included even a little bit of alcohol, especially in my younger years. And I wanted to start working with this idea of like, how do I find healthier ways to play? And there's got to be other ways I could be playing here and bringing other people into it too. And that's why I wanted to do the mask today too, because one of the ways I like to hang out with a friend when they come over is I really enjoy like, hey, let's make a mask, let's put a mask on, and then we get to like talk in these altered states, looking at each other kind of, you know, through this lens of, you know, of a mask and some food on our face, and just, you know, what is it to kind of like share that space with people. And we have little compresses ready for you too, so you know you'll be able to get that off your face also. So we've got you all hooked up. We're going to take you through the layers. So kumari, coming out of this beautiful idea of play, and that's actually how the Apothecary Bar here was created, is we started realizing the more of these drinks I made and the more I put them in a martini glass or a margarita glass, it felt like we were really drinking and playing, and yet you didn't have any of the repercussions. But the kumari came out of this, like, you know, even people coming in here and being like, I want to be honest, I had a little too much to drink last night, I'm not feeling so hot, and what can I do for my liver? And so I took some of the most important things you could do to get your liver to excrete and started playing with like, how do I make that taste so good, but it's like excreting my liver. People use it for too much sugar in their body or too many fried foods in their body. So anything that might have got trapped in that liver that needs to excrete out to the small intestines, because that's how we get things out, is it moves through the small intestines and then we move it through our bowels from there. And so the kumari consists of coriander tea. We make a really simple coriander seed tea. And after that, we add and we layer in our aloe. And maybe when we go to make the mask, I'll tell you a little bit about the aloe we have here because it's pretty special. Took a while for me to find like a really primo aloe. And then we started looking at like, what is it to put mint in there, which we know is an incredible hydrating bitter. And just what do we do to then get it to astringe, which is the word of excrete, and we added the lime. So it's actually not a hard drink to make at home. A lot of people just like to come and kind of like, oh, I need a drink. Give me a kumari. My liver needs some love. But it's a really easy one at home. You're just making coriander tea, aloe, muddling some mint, and finishing it with some lime. And the other thing we put in our kumari that's just really good for like nourishing the liver is the angelica tincture. And it's an angelica root tincture that we use. And that way you get a little bit of that kind of down and out. Since most people know angelica is great for reproductive, but I don't know that everybody realizes how relaxing it is and how much it lets down the intestinal wall and relaxes the liver so it can kind of give it up and still feel safe. Why would we want to think about our liver having to give it up and still feel safe. It is the CEO of the body. It actually manufactures, produces, and distributes 600 primary jobs every moment of the day. So it really is considered that like CEO of the body. And so if there's anything you're going to do to kind of get your body comfortable and start changing the way it functions, it's going to be the liver. The only time I would say something different than that is if your intestines are compacted. You have to remember your liver's going to excrete the intestines. So if your liver's compacted, or sorry, if your intestines are compacted and it's trying to excrete out to what's compacted already, that's when people have a lot of like negative detox responses. And that's why that angelica in there and a little bit of that mint just help it along and make sure the intestines are able to follow through. You know, so when people think of like, oh, I had such a horrible detox, like I got rashes and I was angry and I got headaches, all of that is up and out, or up to the head, or out the mouth, right? So that's all fire rising. And in Ayurveda, the primary way we look at fire in the body is we want it to be in a detox form, which is down and out at all times. So this is definitely something that's going to help the intestines let down and release, even though it's very liver specific. And every one of those plants you could play with now. Coriander, aloe, mint, and lime. So whether you make a drink out of them, or whether you end up making like a mint cilantro pesto, you know, or whether you just think about coriander tea, you know, you're going to know that you're in that liver zone. Yeah.
Well, I want to put an order in. Does anybody want a kumari?
I'll take one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay.
Good.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay.
Perfect.
6.
We'll get those going.
All right. Or do you want to get them, or do you want? Or
Oh yeah, they'll come
okay.
in.
Okay.
Sure.
Good.
We'll get them made for us.
Yeah.
They'll be right next to us. You'll see everything in action.
Yeah.
Okay, I think the next thing we were going to discuss was this face mask.
Yes.
So we can get it on our face if we choose to. And we tried to stay in the same exact kind of vein as that liver, since the liver rules the skin. So usually if there's skin conditions or there's something the skin needs, that's going to definitely be something where you might know you have liver needs. So when people come to me and they say, wow, I'm really having issues with the acne, I'm like, I'm still going back to like, are the intestines clear and can the liver release itself? And so a lot of the same things we would use for that liver and intestines, we'd also use for skincare. So what we did for this is just 3 little ingredients. I made a fresh mint tea. And this time I used spearmint because it's a little bit warmer. It's going to be a little better at kind of opening up and cleansing the pore than a peppermint. Peppermint is more tonifying to the skin, so it'd be better in like a toner or a mister. Spearmint is warmer, so it's going to get a little more driving it in. And then we have this aloe that I love so much, and this is from Aloe Farms, very easy to remember. I believe it's out of Texas. I hope I'm right on that, but it's the only organic aloe I can find like in America. And it's the only one I can find that's aloeing free, which means inner leaf. You know, you buy it, it says inner fillet. Inner fillet means you have none of the leaf. You only have the inner white pulp, okay? The reason they want to separate that is because the leaf of this plant, aloe, great for pulling heat out of the skin like a sunburn, but it's actually deeply laxative, has something called anthraquinones in it, which is part of that aloeing picture. And so if you're going to be taking aloe for satiating the gut and helping with skin conditions and cooling you down, you would want the leaf to be out of there so you don't have a laxative effect. The other thing I would say about this aloe, it's the same price as you're going to get out in any other store, but it's completely undiluted. So I also don't have to worry about what kind of water did they add to that. I always think about that. I'm like, what added water? Is that purified water? Is that out of the tap? Like, well, what kind of water? But the nice thing about this is just a pure aloe. There's nothing else added. So whereas a daily, like liver satiating in the summer, because it's cooling by nature, but a daily would be a cup in any aloe that is outside of this realm. And then when somebody buys this aloe, how nice you can use a half a cup and you're gonna get the same effect, if not a little bit cleaner effect. And it's a very palatable aloe. A lot of people think it's hard to get those down, and this one people are like, whoa, I hardly even taste it. So it's nice and clean.
Hi.
Okay, so I'm just gonna add these together. I've got some Fuller Earth clay. I have my spearmint tea. I have my aloe vera, and I have my raw honey. Now honey's
Make
an
it taste
astringent, right?
Yeah.
So honey is astringent. So this is gonna be first off the thing that's gonna get this to like smear on your face and stay on. Because whenever you're making a mask, you kind of have to have a concept of like what's gonna make this stick to my face. You ever tried to make a mask with like cucumbers, which are great for the skin, just like ball. But if you put some honey in there, you know, and rinse off some of the pulp, you know, you're gonna be able to get it to stick. So we're gonna do a little bit of honey in here, and I'm gonna make a big batch. And notice I'm still making it in a really cute little glass.
Yeah.
And I'm making it in a cute little amber shot glass because I just think medicine, whether it be beauty or your food on a plate, or whether it be a tea in a cup, or making a mocktail so you don't maybe have an actual cocktail, all of these things are about mastering like clay. You know, the more it looks good, the more I want to do it. I don't know about you. Who would raise their hand on that one?
Yeah.
If it looks good, I'm way more apt to do
Yeah.
it. You know, I'm like, oh, I want to just like, you know, we're going to want to dip in here and use this, you know. Okay. So if I add, this is slightly warm, which will be fine, but I'm going to add my cold ingredient to my honey first. And it's going to help it to bind and stay together. So I'm just going to add basically about equal amounts. I'm gonna do about 2 tablespoons of aloe. That was 3 tablespoons of honey, if you ask me. Cooking is an art, and it's also quite spontaneous.
Exactly.
And then I've got my little tablespoon, about a tablespoon of tea. And I'm just gonna mix these together first and really bind this. And then I'm going to add this clay, which is probably another tablespoon.
And I'm sure the
And-
hot water really helps it to all mix
That's
up.
right.
What kind
And
of clay was it?
I'm using Fuller's Earth. Fuller's Earth is a really good, it's considered a tridocic clay, meaning that it's not hot or cold or wet or dry, so it's for all skin types. So I thought since we're in a class I don't know, a lot of classes I teach, I know everybody in there. So I thought, well, I'm in a class I don't know, so let's try to think about the things that are going to help all of us, as hopefully we will all want to put this on our face. Okay. And this is just prepping you for the meal. Let's just want to let you know, we're just like, let's have a drink, let's
Yeah.
put a mask on, and then we're getting down to business, and we are cooking an entire beautiful meal, which we planned over the weekend.
Yeah.
Sitting out on Mary Sheila's beautiful porch, enjoying the sun. And that's even how classes should be planned.
Absolutely.
Might need a little bigger of a
Vessel.
vessel, but I'm still gonna pick a fabulous glass. So I'm just gonna do a little transfer so I have a little more room here to play. Oh, that's so much better. And this glass is just as cute. And I pretty much put all of this. I already measured out 3 teaspoons in here to make my life easy. Okay, and then now we just gotta kind of get it to mix. And we will have a clay.
Nice.
Anything you want to tell them about while I'm mixing this? Where are we going next?
Well, we have a couple things we're gonna make, and one of them, one of the things, I'll just start off by saying, you know, sometimes we get stuck in a rut with our food. Like, do you guys ever feel like, oh my God, what am I gonna cook? I'm like the same, and it gets a little stuck. And I think one of the things that, you know, Ayurveda, in a sense, like allows us to, you know, when you go to an Indian restaurant and there's all these condiments, you know, and so it's really for us to also explore and have fun with condiments with different flavors, so that sometimes we might be having the same thing, but we have something different to put on top. We have something different to add to it. And so that's one of the things tonight, like what I wanted to make with you guys, and DeAnna has some great recipes for it, is doing a little coconut chutney. I think most of us love coconut in its various forms. If you've seen any of our little shows, we did like a coconut chutney, which is just like, to me, it's the best. I love making it. You can make it fresh, you can toast it, and make it all kinds of ways. But what are the spices and the herbs that we can add to our food to enhance the flavor, right? And like on a day like today, it's really hot. So, you know, some of us might have a bigger appetite. Like I kind of had my bigger meal earlier, and it's hot now. So you know, we need that cooling, we need that more hydration. So that's kind of where we're gonna go with today, as far as making a beautiful coconut chutney and a jicama slaw with a bunch of different spices and herbs, and then alternate ways to get plant proteins in this meal as well, which is, I think, you know, another way to keep it cool. I'm not against animal proteins, because I think, you know, everybody has their different needs, but sometimes when it's real hot, like an animal protein can kind of heat us up even more, and then the plant proteins can be a little cooling of a way in and really lend itself to what we might need. Yeah.
So I'm going to go and grab a little bit more clay for this.
Okay.
I have a larger batch, and I want to make it just right.
Yep.
So anything you want to keep adding to that. And I'm going to go grab just a little more clay for this.
All right. Sounds good. Does anybody have any like comments or questions or anything, like just before we dive in more?
What is this all about?
What is this all about? Well, so today we're just kind of doing like a little happy, healthy hour. And actually, that's a good question too, because DeAnna and I are going to teach a weekend-long class in September called Edible Ayurveda. That is going to be, you know, it's a kind of a way, if you are into like knowing more what's right for you and the exploration of food and really diving deeper into, you know, yay, the macronutrients, you know, the micronutrients, and just through that lens of Ayurveda, like understanding it deeper, and like also what exactly is right for you. So we have a class coming up in the first weekend of September, and we also actually have a discount tonight if you signed up. That will give you, I don't want to say it wrong because that would be bad if I said it wrong, but Andrea, what's the discount again for tonight's class?
You are saving $150 off of the class, which is pretty substantial.
Yeah. Woo!
What's the price point of the class?
Ordinarily it is,
I know.
you know, it's gonna get quite cheap.
Availability actually the whole weekend while you're taking the class, but you have availability to come and self-care, and then also meet one-on-one with DeAnna and meet one-on-one with me to get your pulse read and to get your sort of hormonal, like endocrine system sort of assessed. And so you come into the class knowing what is right for you, and you can really hear it through that lens of who you are and how this is going to apply specifically to you. So, and you got the pricing down? I know that's so bad we don't remember. No, Andrea.
You're on me? Oh my gosh. This is a test.
Yeah.
DeAnna, what was that number that you gave me?
Yeah, I think it's $350. I think it's $100 off.
Should have looked before we started teaching.
I know.
Anyway,
Anyways,
all about the menu.
I know. Getting all the food. So, okay, so you are making
I
it into
am.
a nice clay, and then are you going to put it in
I'm
little
going to
shot
put it
glasses
in little
for people?
shots, and then you guys can just pour a little bit in your hand. I added a little bonus when I went back. Sometimes I like that, you know, you think you make a mistake or something's not going well, and I went back there and I was kind of like, oh, this yellow sandalwood from India is pretty amazing.
So you added that?
Yep. So I'm adding a little bit of the yellow sandalwood, and really big into making sure sandalwood is organic. It is being stripped from the earth. It's one of those plants that's endangered. We really need to buy it cultivated and make sure that, you know, we're getting organic standards. And I just happened to find a really beautiful organic farm outside of Mysore where sandalwood is so well known. Oh, I'm finally getting it there. So this one is ready. And it's...
So how do you suggest people do it?
So I would literally pour some in your hand. You're not going to need much. And then you're just going to put it onto your face, you know? And it's just going to make a little paste like this, and it's going to dry on. And then we have little, you know, compresses that you'll be able to clean it off with. But I'm making a thinner mask because that's what we do in the summer. We actually use a more wet mask. And it's not really that wet anyways, so it's gonna be thinner, so we're not making a big thick. But whoever wants to get started, I'll make another one of those. Feel free to use that.
Do you have another little spoon for that?
I think they were ordering drinks, right? The kumaris?
Yes.
The
Yes, and did you want to order a drink too? So drinks are $2 off. Do you want a kumari? We kind of highlighted the kumari at the beginning.
Sure.
Sure. And do you guys want anything?
Can we get one root beer float without the coconut milk?
Okay,
And
without
then
this.
one with.
Okay.
Right on.
Yeah, that's
Get
my
the root
favorite
beer
drink too.
float.
The root beer float is like.
She was just talking
Best.
about it when we did our last class on kale and strawberry salad.
Yeah.
This is delicious.
Oh,
Thank
good.
you.
Is that the kumari? Yeah. Yeah, good. Yeah.
Aloe vera in my refrigerator. I'm gonna go home and try it.
Yeah,
Concoct something.
it's
yeah.
really
You
easy
kind
to
of see
do.
all the ingredients up there. So okay, so what you're gonna finish that up. I'm gonna get into the salad, and then while I'm doing that, you can kind of get things ready for the coconut chutney that we're gonna make.
Okay.
And I opened the cans of coconut milk and find everything.
Good.
So
Here's some more. DeAnna, you want to come over and share that with peeps around you there?
nice.
I'll make one more of these, and then we can start divvying them up.
So I was gonna make a salad. So I've been having a lot of fun doing little, lots of things with jicama, and I would just say right now, like jicama is my kind of, you know how like turmeric is the spice of it's like the king or queen of spices. This is like my king or queen of vegetables right now. I am just so in love with jicama and doing all kinds of things with it. And it's such a perfect vegetable for the season. And I will put a little plug, you know, one of the main places that I've found organic jicama has just been community market. So that's a good source for it.
Sure is.
So what I'm gonna do, so let me tell you a few great things about jicama. One of them is that it is extremely, like just by the color, like this is the picture of hydration. When you have the white color, and it's a root, so you know the root is going to hold a lot of the minerals. So it's very mineral rich. The white part of it means there's lots of potassium and I don't know what other ones, like a little bit of calcium, probably magnesium, phosphorus. So it's extremely electrolyte rich. So when electrolytes are in their food form, like we can add electrolytes, but when they're in their food form, it's very easy for the body to recognize, and it's very easy for us to assimilate those minerals. So that's something to keep in mind. And then it's also extremely prebiotic. Do you guys know what prebiotic is?
Here's some more.
Prebiotic is the fiber, a prebiotic is the fiber in, hey Pat, is the fiber in a vegetable that actually feeds our microbiome. So when we eat jicama and artichoke and lots of foods that have fiber in them already, we are actually feeding our microbiome. So it's a really great way for us to stay healthy, because when we're thinking about our gut, the most important thing about our gut is that we have a healthy balance of bacteria in the gut. And there's a lot of factors that go against that for us. So some of the things that go against it for us are things like, you know, if the water, like DeAnna was mentioning, she's not sure what kind of water they use in the aloe. If the water's not filtered and it's full of chlorine, then it might not be a great source for a, you know, it could be, the chlorine could actually kill our microbiome. If we're eating proteins or animal fats or anything that have been fed antibiotics or anything like that, those antibiotics can also go after our microbiome. So that all of those things can actually add up to be, you know, a negative thing. So anytime we can feed the microbiome is a good thing. I don't necessarily eat the skins of the jicama. I don't know if some people do, but generally,
digest though. I've played with it a little bit,
yeah.
seeing if I can, because I don't take the skin off my ginger or my burdock or my turmeric. So I really tried to play with that, but I have to say it feels like it didn't quite digest in the same way. Had a lot of fiber that didn't really follow through in my body, and usually fiber isn't the hard thing for me to follow through with. So I have found taking that off really does make a big difference.
And I'll say one thing about the jicama. So we're gonna grate it, but you know, it makes such a great vessel. Like I've been having fun. Sometimes I'll put a little nut butter, or sometimes I'll put like a little goat cheese or avocado and some pickles. Like it is such a great crispy little vessel. So to instead of using bread or something like that.
I'll tell you what I really love with the jicama is I like dipping it or drizzling black sesame tahini over it, which we can get more readily than we used to. It literally is like black in the jar and it says black tahini. There's a company called Kavala. They also have that at Community Market. And you literally just drizzle it over the jicama and you build this whole protein, and all your oxygenated EFAs are built into it. So you have the hydration of that protein and the seeds, and then you have the jicama, which is that hydrating potassium-rich base, and it just tastes incredible. Really, really easy and fun. Kids love the black tahini because their teeth are all black and there's like, it's, you know, slightly messy, but you know, kids love that kind of stuff. I mean, it's really fun to give some, you know, healthy food to somebody who can kind of play and, you know, and really see their food.
Yeah.
You know?
So, a lot of times I'll just grate this, but I also happen to have this thing, so I'm going to use it. I'm sure most of you don't have one of these at home, but
This is a Salad Master.
it's awesome.
If you ever do a Salad Master party, this is your gift.
Yeah, exactly.
I always say it's worth doing a Salad Master party just for the fact that you get one of these phenomenal grinders, which they don't sell in the stores or anywhere else.
I gotta get
And
it
it's
off.
so easy.
Although it needs a solid surface to be on.
Yes.
But yeah, then it's just real easy. And the nice thing is I don't have to peel the whole thing. I can still have something to hold on to.
So while you're doing that, shall I explain
Yeah.
a little bit about this? We're layering in a whole bunch of recipes, so I hope you can keep up with us. What I did is I just took about 5 of these lemongrass. Now lemongrass grows really, really well where we live. So you put one of these in the ground and you're gonna end up with this entire beautiful kind of, you know, area of lemongrass. And you just need to pull a couple of these off at a time. So these are right out of Mary Sheila's garden. And I just take the ends off because they're really hardy and fibrous. So I don't need that lot of that fiber. And what I did is I just chopped it. So I just took the, you know, the root part of it and I chopped it into little like 1/4-inch pieces. And I also have all of the leaf from the top of it too. And what I was telling Mary Sheila is one of the things I do with my coconut chutney is you actually take the lemongrass and the coconut milk and you just put it together. You just put it together. You can make your own coconut milk or you can just be easy with the can. Either way you want to do it. So I'm just adding these and then I'm going to use my hand emulsifier. And the hand emulsifier, interesting how these just stay sometimes. And I'm going to zip and I'm just going to like emulsify this. And what's going to happen is when you smell it, it's just going to be full of lemongrass aromatics. So I just made a fresh lemongrass coconut milk. You can freeze it. You can freeze coconut milk, but it will only last in the fridge, or so, maybe 2 days. So you're going to want to make it and use it. Real simple. Just make it and use it. Okay? And where is my lovely hand emulsifier? How's that mask doing, everybody?
She's tasty.
I know, right? You even got a little sweet on the lips.
It smells like graham crackers.
It smells like graham crackers. For maybe the sandalwood
Just like
and the fuller's earth.
sweet energy.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Now once that mask dries on, right? So as soon as that mask is drying on your face, you can let me know and I will grab a compress for you and then you can take it off. So the way you know you're done with the mask is the very moment when it's starting to make it where you can't talk anymore. So as soon as you can't talk anymore, then you know you're getting to that potential place.
Is it the sandalwood that's grainy? That's powdery?
The sandalwood is a little grainy and the fuller's earth is slightly grainy too. Yep. Yeah, if you used like a French grain clay, that's where you're gonna get a really silky, smooth mask. But the nice thing I like about the grainy, sometimes I don't like it when it's just sitting because it might have a little debris that falls. But when you go to use it with the compress, you're gonna get a whole exfoliation process with it too, you know? Who knows about a hand emulsifier? They are the most amazing, right? They are the most amazing tools in the kitchen because I could put, and we're gonna make a pesto, I believe, later. I can just make my entire pesto in this jar. Zip, 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 clean this off, and all I do is have to put a lid on it. So very little cleanup, very little need for much, especially for people who don't have like a super, you know, what they think of as a functional kitchen. I find most people can make their kitchen functional, even camping. It's all about kind of what do you do with your space and what tools do you have. So I'm just going to give this a good mulch. This particular emulsifier is called a Bamex, and it's out of Switzerland. I found them at the fair with my mom when I was 9 years old, and I've been using them ever since, and I still have my original Bamex, and it still works, and I'm 50. So let me just say, 41 years I've been working with that Bamex. So they're just the most amazing tool, and they're a really high commercial grade motor, so you can take it a little further than you Bamix. And you know, though I can't find them local, you can get them online very easily. Oh yeah, that's working. Sometimes your lemongrass isn't going to be as potential, but right out of the ground, it's pretty high potential. So sometimes I'm going to have to use more than less. The drier that is, like I might want to pass one of these around and you can see how wet this is. Like look how I can just break it. If I can't, you know, feel the wet in a lemongrass when I buy it in the store, I know that it's going to take like 10 of them to really be able to give me any flavor. So buying lemongrass is a little bit specific.
And then if I didn't have that and I was just going to put it into a soup, what I do a lot of times is I take the end of my knife and I just pound the tip to get the flavors going before I chop it up.
You're actually releasing the essential oil.
Exactly. And then I can even, you know, if I don't want the, because you really, if I put this in a soup, you really can't totally eat it. You know, sometimes when I make a soup for someone, I say, you're going to get some chunks that you can't chew, so just so you know, like you can't swallow because it's so thick. But you can also just even throw it in like this, so it's easy to take out. But then you get that. But I wanted to just say, if when I harvested my lemongrass today, I kind of pulled out a big chunk. It's in a barrel, And I got some extra ones that I didn't process that still have the roots, so I can share some lemongrass if you want to try to plant some after this class. I don't know if I have enough for everybody, but I could see what I could do. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna pass around. Just gonna clean up this lid so it's easy to pass around. I like cleanliness in my cooking. Okay, and I just want you guys to smell this. You know probably what put coconut in your nose here. I'm really into people remembering. Like, smell is connected to our limbic brain and our olfactory. I'm actually teaching aromatherapy this weekend and next weekend, so I'll be talking about psychoaromatics and the limbic brain, and look how it became like this beautiful green from the lemongrass. So think about how coconut smells and think about how lemongrass smells. And then go ahead and here you go. And you got that fresh lemongrass citrusy. If this sat overnight, it's gonna get even more reduced and lemony. But you are gonna have to use it that next day, just from the water content. Sure, you wanna compress?
So I just did a few jicamas, and then I also have some fennel. So I'm gonna actually process the fennel as well, because that'll be really nice in the salad. Another cool, white, wet, springy vegetable. And I mean, it just adds such a great flavor. And I don't know, to me, fennel has like not that I grew up eating fennel, but it has a very like childhood comforting flavor. I think that's just because it has such a sweet nature to it. So I'm gonna actually, I think I'm gonna do the same thing and just grate the fennel, just so it's in nice similar sized pieces as my jicama. And if I didn't have this, I would probably, and I'll just show you, I would probably just take my fennel and do some nice slices, and then just keep slicing it into nice thin pieces. Because a lot of times you want to go for the mouthfeel, and when you're thinking about a slaw, you want things to be similar sizes, right? You don't really, it's fine. You can do it any way you want. You can have chunks, but like we're going for more of the slaw feeling, so we're going to do the slaw. So do you want to say anything else about?
Well, yeah, I'd say two things. You hit on the jicama being potassium rich and electrolytes. So anytime you look at a vegetable and you can open it up and say that looks like it has water content in it, most things that are white are showing you that they're full of water. Think about a bean sprout or bok choy, celery. So anytime you see the white and wet vegetable, you know that it's electrolyte potassium rich. And if you really pay attention, you're going to taste the electrolyte saltiness that comes off of there. So there is natural occurring sodium in here, and we mean that in the healthiest way here. The sodium that we should be saying no to is, our refined sea salt, our table salts, our iodized salts. Those are all bleached and processed, and there's really no mineral content left. But if you're talking about natural occurring salts in like straight from the ocean, like gray Atlantic salt, or if you're looking at a plant, these are going to be electrolytes, and that's how we refill the kidneys in the body. Our kidneys are the oceans of the body. So you're looking at like, how am I going to be able to absorb and assimilate water? And then anytime you see the white paired with the green is our picture of magnesium and iron and copper. And so magnesium and potassium, meaning green and white put together, is what makes up our primary electrolyte compounds, which are potassium, magnesium, sodium, and chloride. Chloride is things we see in pink, like Himalayan pink salt is more chloride, or a beet has more chloride, even a radish has more chloride. So our rainbow of colors, like the color we're looking at, tells you exactly what vitamins and minerals you're getting. We go pretty deep into that conversation in our course, because it allows you to shop not only according to like who needs what and what do you need in the season, but like what you're looking at tells you what you're getting. So this is magnesium and potassium, which is the primary vitamins and minerals that make up our electrolyte compounds, which feed the kidneys. Now, why do we want to feed the kidneys? Make sense that they're the oceans, right? Like, ooh, we don't want the ocean to go away, do we? Well, we don't want ours to go away either. We need our ocean water as much as the world needs its ocean water. So that's the main reason. But our adrenals sit right on top of our kidneys. So the moment we are out of ocean water in the kidneys, our adrenals are there to come to our rescue. And so that puts us in survival, or it puts us in fight or flight. But basically, a lot of us are going around running on adrenaline because we just don't have the concepts around what it is to make sure we're absorbing and assimilating our water. And just that we need 60 to 70% water in our body, just like our earth does. Yeah.
Nice. Well, you're on a roll. Let's talk about beets.
Well, so what about beets, right? Now, when we were making this recipe this weekend, I was very specific and I said yellow beets. And I knew Mary Sheila knew what that meant, but I was being specific just even for the recipe. And so yellow beets basically show you, now again, a yellow beet is lighter in color than we have in a red beet. So these are going to be more cooling in nature. So can you see how red is hotter in a color and yellow is still warm, it's active, but it's a cooler color than red, right? So that's, again, you want to think of the rainbow of colors, and like the color tells you whether it's cooling, whether it's warming, and what it has to be provided with. And yellow beets have more folic acid than red beets, and folic acid is what helps us to release a lot of the chemical compounds that we get from nature, or inorganic food, or unfortunately just being out with exhaust of cars and living life. And so we need this folic acid to be able to excrete the liver and to build up our blood supply. And that's why beets are really well known for like building the blood. Red beets are going to give you a higher like blood volume. You know, it has more magnesium in it that we also see in red. But yellow beet is going to be more cooling. And that's why they usually grow longer seasons than the red beets do. Or you'll still see them kind of, you know, surviving and coming up in the summer because they're more summer specific. So cooling beet versus warming beet would be the simplest way to look at it, you know, and which one do you need? They're both equally wet. You know, they both equally have that still for a root. They've got a nice good wet consistency.
And that's like sort of a theme too when we're thinking about, right, all of these plants, they're considered carbohydrates, right? So look at that word carbohydrate. Carbohydrate, right? So there's that hydrating factor that they give to us. So that's that need, and even just that, and that's one of the things that's so cool in Ayurveda, and just it, and what we teach a lot in our class is when we look through the lens of the elements, right? And just like DeAnna was saying about the oceans, it's, you know, how much water is on our planet? About 70%. How much water is in our body? About 70%. You know, and so, and then there's times where there's maybe drought and there's not enough water flow, or there's flooding and there's too much water flow, and the same thing can happen in the body, right? We can have times in our lives where we're dry, or we're not hydrating properly, or water is going right through us. Like, what does that mean? Why is that happening? How can we address that through that lens of, you know, changing the picture? And in some ways it could be, wow, how can we get more from our carbohydrates that we're eating? You know, for some of us, we need to have them more cooked, and that helps like break things down and makes it easier to assimilate. And for some people, you know, they might need them more raw as well, just to be able to get the benefits from them. So it's just addressing it and thinking of it through that lens, like, wow, do I need more nourishing? Do I need more cleansing? Like, what is it that I need right now with what my body is going through? And it changes, you know, and that's the thing. Sometimes I hear, you know, when I meet with somebody and they say, oh, I cannot have any ferments because I'm pitta. And I say, well, actually you can. It's just, how do you balance out your ferments? And then they might say, oh, thank God I love ferments. You know, thank God I can eat them. So it's just about finding that balance.
Yes, and who needs what when? And there's two things in Ayurveda. Who needs what when? So there's always a time, and then there's a time to consider it might not be just right for you. And the other thing in Ayurveda to consider is they always look at quantity and quality. So often we find people are over using ferments because we know them to be so beneficial to the body, and they're like the superfood of today. So then everyone's like, more kraut, more apple cider, more kombucha, and we end up with a lot of enzymatic, personally, volatility. I mean, think about how a ferment is even made. It's got gases and it's volatile. So for somebody who's really slow and maybe stuck in the mud or feeling sluggish, they need that mulching and that volatility, and they need things to ferment. And ferments help things ferment, you know? But if you're already feeling like you're a little bit volatile, which is what we call pitta fire, you know, if you're feeling like you're fiery and things feel volatile already, you just don't need to add more volatility to it. So you can also trust yourself. Like, does it feel like I need a little rev? Go for a ferment. If you feel like you're already revving, you might want to just refrain from the ferments and wait until they call you again. Okay, so what I'm doing with this, because we're going to use this jar again or this jar really, I'm going to strain this. I'm just going to strain it. I have this little simple coffee filter and it just fits perfect in here. And I'm just going to strain my coconut milk, and I'm going to release that. I'm going to release that lemongrass. Look how green that beautiful coconut is. Okay, so, and the more I kind of pull this out of here, the more I'm going to get it to strain a little faster. So this is just how we milk the filter, and it works really well, as long as you don't take it too far out. And what we're going to do is we're going to keep adding to this, and we're making a wet coconut chutney. Now we're also going to make a dry coconut chutney, right? We were going to do both. And we were going to show you the difference between, you know, how do you make a dry and a wet, and they taste really different, you know. And really this becomes a chutney, you know. This would be called a chutney, just like if you were in India, this would be a chutney. If you were in Italy, this would be a pesto. So there's no difference between, you know, and here we just call them sauces, you know, sauces or condiments, you know, but these are just the same idea of making a wet or dry condiment from different cultures. And all of that is where you get high amounts of medicine, and I'm just going to call it medicine, because what is medicine? Vitamins and minerals and enzymes and nourishment and things that are made of the taste factors. Astringent, bitter, pungent, sour, sweet, salty. Those are our flavor profiles on our tongue. And that's what gives our food and all of our primary herbaceous plant-based medicine. And that's what gives them their properties and functions, is the way they taste and the way they look. You know, we don't lie. You could look me up and down and you could see all my lovely attributes, and guess what? You could look me up and down and you could see all my not so lovely attributes. We're really not hiding from each other. We're right here. You know what I mean? And as a practitioner, I've learned everyone's got their weaknesses and everyone's got their strengths. Me, you, everybody. So why not maybe look for some of those weaknesses or things you don't love about yourself and be willing to say, wait a minute, what's the opposite? I look so hot, I need cold. I look so cold and pale, I need warm. I look depleted, I need nourishment. Or I really think I look sluggish and kind of boggy, and then you're like, okay, well, I need to cleanse. So this really is a medicine that is based on opposites, and it's that simple, you know. And we actually do Ayurveda, and what I call even bigger than Ayurveda, because, you know, that's just from India. Elemental medicine is from all over the world. So we have to remember that, you know, when you look at the elements, which is the foundations of Ayurveda, we do this all day long. You get cold, put your jacket on. You get hot, you take your jacket off. You get thirsty, you drink some water. You get congested, you blow your nose and cleanse. We are literally doing Ayurveda and elemental opposites all day long. All we got to do is take it into our symptomology, take it into our food, take it into our meal planning, and then you end up being able to take care of yourself, you know?
It reminds me what you're saying. One of the things recently when I've had a few clients that have had changes in a positive way, success, and they're like, I just want to know what it is though that I did that made the difference. And it's this, and I have to say, it's never just one thing. It's everything. And it's, I think, just such a different, hey Gary, it's such a different mindset from like, I'm just going to take this one supplement, or because it's the going to sleep earlier sometimes, right? It's the, you know, drinking more water or maybe more tea or less coffee. And it's the, you know, making more of your meals at home, or adding different foods, or really thinking of your food as medicine, or actually like slowing down more when you eat, right? It's, we don't know, we can't always pinpoint anything because it's everything. It's that whole interaction, right? And it's always changing.
And sometimes it's even just the intention and the taking action itself that made those changes. I'm not so sure it's always specifically the plant, or like you did exactly the right thing. It's that you actually made a decision, you figured something out, you made a decision, and you took action. And that's what we call setting intentions. You know, so some people will be like, oh man, I'm gonna be on this road trip and like, I'm not gonna be able to get any good food. And I'm like, make sure you have a lot of intention behind that food. You'll have to eat the best you can, but you know, making sure you're really setting the intention of like, oh, you're not exactly what I would eat at home, but I still love you and you're still gonna support me because I'm hungry. You know what I mean? And you're like, oh, I don't usually eat iceberg lettuce per se on a daily, but I was given an iceberg lettuce salad and I did pick the salad to eat instead of maybe the French fries that, you know, look like was at every table. And then I have to be all, oh, iceberg lettuce, I'm so glad you exist. It's a food too. So how much do we put negative intention in something because we think it's not perfect? And in Ayurveda, actually, the word perfect doesn't exist. And I find that very relieving. Everything's a balancing act. There is no perfect. You know, you can't make the perfect meal. It's going to change the next meal anyway. You know? And so how do you let yourself just kind of be with your food, even though you're trying to eat it the healthiest you can? Look how gorgeous that green, beautiful lemongrass is. Okay, what are we adding to this? What were we going to do with this? Cilantro?
We have cilantro, we have mint, and then we also have the dry coconut. So, and then we have lemon balm. So
let's do a lemon balm mint cilantro, which I think is this whole bundle right here. Okay, so now we are going to add more ingredients to our lemongrass coconut milk. And it's going to be really easy to do. I'm going to just tell you a few little parameters. If you're going to put mint in a pesto, it's going to need to be off the stem. The stem is really bitter. Same thing goes for basil. So if you've ever made basil and you put the whole thing in there and you're wondering what happened, you know, that's really what's going on. Whereas with cilantro and lemon balm, I'd say is I'm on the fence with it. I can add in that.
it's a little older.
But it's a little bit.
Yeah, so
yeah,
I'll
you were
take
saying.
Yeah, because I mean, it's been around in the garden for a little while, right? So it's not as like fresh and young as it was maybe like a month ago.
So we're just putting these beautiful mint leaves in here.
Yeah.
Maybe going to take that little extra off. Now, if you took and put cilantro to your nose and put mint to your nose, they both have strong aromatics, right? But which one do you think is going to kind of like really linger in your nose? The mint, actually. So whenever you're working,
Unless you don't like cilantro.
and you can, yeah, really, that's true. But if you can really smell one and the other way I can do it is you can put a bunch in here, and I can smell my hand. And I can put my hand in cilantro, and I can massage it in. I can smell it. But if right now you smell my cilantro hand versus my mint hand, this one is way stronger in the mint. So what that does for you is it gives you the freedom to trust how much to use. And that means we want less mint than cilantro, so it doesn't take over in the formula. And then lemon balm's the one that's really tricky for people to know what to do with because it's not usually used as a herbaceous, you know, plant, or people don't think to put it in a pesto. We usually use it as like a gentle nervine tea, you know, that type of thing, and it's great for the nerves. So that is true. It's also very good for fungus. in our body, so it's antifungal. But I personally love working with lemon balm, and I find it to be incredibly good for gases in the gut and cooling down the gut and healing any kind of perforations, or like people talk about irritable bowel, or they talk about Crohn's, or they have a lot of inflammation or hemorrhoids. All of these things that are inflammatory, lemon balm is incredibly good for cooling that tissue down and mending it. And instead of just putting all kinds of herbs in here, I'm going to start with my mint. I have to move on over. We are not in our kitchens.
No.
Which is fine. Shows how you can do things on the fly.
You can do it anywhere, right?
So that was maybe a good solid handful of mint.
And I will probably have more lemon balm at the end, so if anyone feels inspired they want to take some home and play, then you can grab some at the end.
Then once I know that's emulsified some, I'm going to start layering in my cilantro, and that's going to be stem and all. So I'm just going to start really pulling this in
Do you want
here.
some of this in here? Or are you going to put some of this in?
Actually, no, I thought that was good for the dry. The dry coconut.
I know, and then I thought we were going to cook, so maybe we'll just...
Well, we could just do an infused ghee and then just mix it in, no cook.
Okay. Or just...
And I'm just going to keep putting more and more of the cilantro in here. And it's just going to keep getting thicker and thicker. So cilantro is very specific for heavy metals. If you really taste, and we can pass around a little, I know you know what cilantro tastes like, but you may be able to really, if you notice, you might be able to see how much more salty finish. There's a lot of electrolytes again in cilantro, and it is cooling. So again, we're making a summer meal. But it's really about heavy metals. And when heavy metals can't be broken down in the body, they become calcification in the joints and the bones. A lot of bone spurs, and also that's how we get kidney stones. So if we really want to make sure we're keeping our kidneys healthy, we want to keep the heavy metals liquefied. And that's the beauty of cilantro, is it liquefies heavy metals so you can get them out of the body really easy. You don't want to try to move heavy metals. They're like little shards in the body, so you always want to liquefy it and then flush it out. So we always do like a high water concentrated flush. Okay. Get my
We're
last
going
little
for
bit
it.
in here. You like how I just shoved this in my jar
Totally.
and keep going? This is how I do it. Every Monday is my self-care day. So I do a steam and a neti pot and a full body salt scrub, and I sweat in the tub, and then I do a full gua sha, and then I either do a douche if it's the right time and the right thing for me to do, or an enema, depending on whether I need that. And then I make my pesto, and I make a protein-based hummus with whatever beans feel right to me. So I'll make like a bean hummus, and I'll make my pesto, and I'll make a pot of dal, like lentil soup, and like I'm good to go for a couple days. And then I can just start smearing this pesto on everything I eat. I can start, dipping my jicama in that hummus whenever I need something quick. If I am in a time where I feel like I'm super stressed and I need more protein, because I do on and off meat, it's not good for me on a daily. But if I am in there, then I'll also make little buffalo or chicken patties, bake them, and then I've got those throughout the week, and I can just tiny little 1-inch little buffalo patty is like plenty of protein. We way overeat meat, which is probably the biggest issue with it. But then I've got food ready. Sure.
Is that about enough?
That is enough. So I'm using even less lemon balm than we did the mint, because the lemon balm is the one that's going to be with me on my hand for quite some time here. It will make it too bitter if you overuse it, since lemon balm might be new to you. But pretty soon here, y'all are going to be able to taste this, because it's almost done.
And are we gonna, I wonder if it's gonna need like, I feel like it's gonna need lemon.
It might. Let's see how far that lemon balm takes it,
Yeah.
and then we'll know.
And all I really did here was just put the 3 different vegetables in here for a, just for the salad.
So, 2 ways you can go about this. If you use the emulsifier, I could keep going and I could just make this more and more and more smooth. Or sometimes if I want something that it doesn't have any plant matter at all, and this is a chunky wet chutney. This is how it's, made. But if you were like, I don't like the chunky, I really want something smoother. If you put this through a blender or a food processor, just at this point, zip, 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 put it through your Vitamix, and you would have an instant, just puree. So it just depends on kind of how you like your pesto. Where's this going, Mary Sheila? Are we putting this in the slaw?
Well, so what I was thinking is that, so what we're gonna do is we're making this slaw. I'm gonna drizzle it in a moment with some lemon juice on it. We also have some bean sprouts we're gonna add in. And I also brought in some pumpkin seeds that I have soaked and sprouted, just for kind of adding a little extra protein. And then I'm thinking that can kind of be on the side and you can scoop it on top.
Great.
So that we'll have this nice slaw. We can put it either in a lettuce cup, so you can have it in a lettuce cup, nature's plate. And I also was just starting to slice some jicama, because I thought, well, maybe some of you guys want to just have a nice slice of jicama. You can even put a little slaw on top of that. So you're going to taste it.
I'm gonna taste this.
I know, I can't wait to taste it.
And why don't we taste this
Yeah,
together?
really get in there.
Oh, it came out really nice. Slightly chunky, but I don't mind that myself. That came out really nice.
Really nice.
I think it needs a little salt.
Salt, and I would say even just like a little lemon.
Okay, let me put this back in here for a moment and
Yeah.
we'll finish it off.
What else do you guys use when you make a slaw? Like, I know cabbage is a slaw, but what else do you guys use to make a slaw?
Carrot,
Carrot slaw? Yeah.
apples.
Oh yeah, apples.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty much endless what you can do with a slaw. I often will, make it more pungent in the winter, and I'll add a little bit of, sliced leek or green onion, and that'll give it a little bit more pungency in the slaw. The other thing I do with slaw too that we've done in the past is you just grate a whole burdock root and a couple finger-size turmeric root, fresh, and then you throw that in there, and you just made it that much more liver kidney specific. It's all about layering in the medicine.
What does burdock taste like?
Hmm?
What does burdock taste like?
Burdock, it's kind of, I guess I would call it a little earthy, but I don't
Totally.
mean in kind of that dirt kind of earthy, I think of with vetiver or something, which I also like.
Yeah.
But it's very earthy and it's mild. And once you throw it into a soup or you put it in with a slaw, you hardly even know it's there. But it definitely adds a completely different profile for healing the gut. So it's got that same healing ability that the lemon balm has. And we have salt around here.
I think the salt little, do you want that little tray?
I'm gonna go grab
Okay.
the tray.
We also have some bean sprouts, and sprouting is a great way to get a little extra protein and really get a lot of the enzymes from the seeds. You can sprout yourself. You can buy your sprouts. And we'll actually leave these on the side, and you can kind of add these to your salad, I think. Or actually, I'm going to add them in there.
Could you list this or say again the main things that are?
Yeah, so it's jicama, fennel, and yellow beets.
Easy. And then the bean sprouts.
Yep. And then I'm going to throw some pumpkin seeds in there. Simple little salad. And then we could put this on top. And I think that's good.
I think so too. You're saying put this in there?
In there, or should we mix it in, or put it on, or people can drizzle it on top? I think I need to taste it again to see.
Here, you try it. And tell me. Enough salt?
Mm-hmm. Just enough salt, and I think just do the rest of this lemon, maybe.
Okay. Why don't we keep it separate just so y'all
Yes,
can
I think so.
taste the difference? And why not taste that on its own and see what flavor just
Mix that.
vegetables have? We're really taught to cover our vegetables up. And sometimes if we just taste them before we put something in there, makes a really big difference. And then you can put this beautiful chutney over it, and you'll be able to see how it varies. There's more in this one. Okay, so you see how we're left with the pulp and the rind? Like, look at that beautiful rind that just came out from that lemon, right? And these are Meyer lemons. If you took this and sliced it into tiny little, just thin strips, and then baked it in the oven on just slow, just like on warm for a couple hours, so it doesn't get too overcooked or roasted, because you need it to go slow enough that it dries out, otherwise you're going to put it in a jar and it's going to mold. And you will make the most beautiful roasted lemon rind. You can do it with grapefruit, you can do it with orange, you can do it with lime. It's really sad we throw these away, and we even think they're not compostable. And so then it just goes in the garbage, when really it's like, if you put a couple roasted lemon rinds in a tea you're making, like with Tulsi ginger tea, or a little lemon rind with a little ashwagandha, nourishing ashwagandha, the flavor profile is so well rounded, and it makes this very golden amber colored tea base. So it's beautiful, and you taste this kind of, you know how the peel is so much more floral than the fruit itself. So it's got that lemony floral. And the other thing I like to do with those is when I go to like pickle cucumbers or pickle daikon or whatever I'm pickling, if I'm doing like a salt brine, I'll put like about 6 per jar. I'll put about 6 of those little rinds around it, and it'll turn it this beautiful orange amber, and you'll have this lemony finish on your pickling. So it's kind of sad we throw those behind, and throw them away, and there's just all this medicine sitting here waiting to be used.
So you roast them how high in the oven?
I was saying just on warm and let it go a couple hours.
Okay.
If you even do 200, you better watch it, and it might toast up before it really dries
So a
out.
dehydrator would be a good
You
idea
could,
too.
but it doesn't get that same
Crisp.
roasty finish.
Okay.
Like, it doesn't have that same, it kind of almost caramelizes it, and you get a whole different flavor profile. But you're still gonna have the
I'm gonna try
medicine
that.
regardless.
Could you like ferment them maybe?
Yeah, you
You
can
can.
totally brine the lemons. That's a great way to do it
Absolutely.
too. Yeah, and you could probably just, because actually when you do brine a lemon, you want to use mostly the peel more than the inside. So if you were doing any kind of project, you could totally just throw a bunch of these in. You can even maybe have like kind of a brine and then just continue to.
Here's our second.
Okay, so yeah, so I think right now we'll just let's kind of, people can come up and taste, and we could talk, and if you have questions, and we could just sort of be casual now and eat. And then just as a reminder, if anyone is thinking about the edible Ayurveda, so it is right now, it's a $450 class, and then it is through the month of June, it's $3.95, and then tonight it's $3.50. And then there is the option to also purchase a little bit more with the day before, and that is going to be doing some consults with DeAnna and I, and using the self-care spa. And we're going to have a lot of fun in that class. It's a really wonderful class. We've taught it before, but we're sort of reinvigorating it. Oh, hey! Yay!
I think this is our third
right in time for
teaching,
food,
too.
okay? Perfect timing. So I just want to, our third time teaching it, yeah. So I just want to let people know that that's an option for tonight. And if you have any questions about the class, please ask us. And like I said before, if anybody wants to take a little lemongrass home, because I picked a little too much, and if any, or this is lemon balm, and I do have a little extra lemongrass that can probably go in the ground that I'm happy to share when I pulled out a little too much today. And then, what you could do is you could come up here and just take a lettuce cup and add your ingredients in here, and then you're gonna put a little of this chutney, this coconut chutney right on top, and give it a try. And that is what we're doing. Come on up.
The other thing I would say, here's a couple compresses for anybody who wants to get that mask off their face. Anybody need to remove that mask? Everyone's doing good? Okay. But the other thing I just want to say is, even if you are not able to do that weekend, I want to let you know of two more things before we just settle in and enjoy, and please continue to go. I want you to know that this right now is live on our Edible Ayurveda page, which maybe that's where you found us. But if you don't know that we have the Edible Ayurveda Facebook page, that would be where you could see us doing these cooking classes ongoing. I think we've done about 3. I think we've done 3, you've done about 8, so let's be honest.
Together.
And you'll be able to watch us, cooking all kinds of different meals and prepping for our class coming up. So you can do that at any time you wish. So
Can these
thank
be
you.
from the dishwasher?
Yeah, exactly.
What are the dates for your class?
September 6th and 7th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bon appetit.
Bon
Yes.
appetit.
Enjoy.
Have you thought of making a cookbook? Pictures and
That would be
Well,
fun.
we're working on that. That's part of one of our ideas, is to, really get what it is that is our main strengths. We've been playing it out, and then to make it into a book.
The fun thing with DeAnna is the more, and a lot of people are like this, and some people, I think they're still opening it up, but it's just that ability to roll with something and change it and taste it and what flavor, and it's, the more you practice, the more you do. But so it's really fun when we're in the kitchen, because we're both in that same wavelength of oh, just add a little bit. Oh, I messed up, but then I'll just do this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is this burdock?
That's a jicama.
Jicama.
Yeah.
Jicama.
Wow.
So
I've
here it
never
is. That's
seen
like
it
a
without
Yeah.
being peeled. Wow.
Yep, and it's kind of like a mix between an apple and a potato.
Okay.
That's how it feels inside.
Yeah, I've had it. I just haven't seen it before.
Yeah.
And are you still doing your week-long nutrition course, or is this more?
Actually, our 10-day course
Yeah.
has become our 12 modules. So we have the weekend that's like personal public health, and you're more learning about yourself over the weekend and how does food pertain to you.
Yeah.
And then in October, we're launching our 12 modules of nutrition online. So that's where we're going with this. So the 10-day nutrition classes become 12 modules online. Starting October,
There's so much information.
branching out.
And I never come away with anything. I never know what I'm talking about. So I'm just focusing, am I learning anything?
How does that all taste?
It's like,
Tastes good?
I'm signing up for a class.
Oh, good. That's so nice to know. Oh, thank
I'm not
you.
gonna say anything.
We're a good team.
Oh, that was the mask.